Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, July the 24th, 2021. It is currently 11:10 a.m. Central Time. And once again, I'm coming to you live from the studios of Theology Central. Is that the right way to say it? I'm coming to you from the Theology Central studios. Now, I'm coming to you live from a table in the back of a sanctuary, Victory Baptist Church, Ovalo, Texas. Yes, I was told that that the podcast needs to have more of a professional feel, and then we would be more successful. So, yeah, well, thank you for that suggestion. I don't think I'll ever be able to pull it off. In fact, there's a part of me that doesn't ever want to sound too professional. I mean, I want to sound professional. Like, I want good sound quality. There's a lot of things I want to do right, but I always want this podcast to feel very real. I don't want it to sound like, I don't want the standard template for all the other podcasts, right? Because, well, all the other podcasts already exist. So instead of trying to be them, I'm going to be me. And so my feelings here is that it's just me, a sinner, in front of a microphone, talking to you about the Christian life, studying the Bible, talking doctrine, theology, and hopefully producing something that is beneficial, challenging, thought-provoking, interesting. And if I can do that, and most importantly, is that I benefit you spiritually. And if I can pull that off, then wonderful. Yes, I am always open to hearing people's suggestions, but there's some things, it's like sometimes when I hear the suggestions, it's like, so you want me to sound like, and then you just, insert the name of the podcast. I'm like, but I don't want to be them. I don't want to sound like them. I want Theology Central to be unique. And so I kind of put it together the way I do. So hopefully it's beneficial. So I am coming to you live from the studio of the Theology Central podcast, the Theology Central studios, coming to you live from, Victory Baptist Church, Ovalo, Texas. So thank you. Yeah, I know you don't care about any of that. That's just me sitting there just talking to myself, really. But no, I am doing a little bit of delay here. Just a little behind the scenes to show you what I was doing. I was delaying here because I wanted to see one of the number one apps now for people listening to our podcast. It's really interesting how this has kind of developed over the last 60 days. Pandora has really now become the number one way people listen to the Theology Central podcast. I don't really know how that happened. I don't know why it happened, but Pandora has become number one. Now, we don't get a lot of emails from Pandora listeners. We do not. We get, I think most of our email traffic comes from people who listen to us via Apple Podcast, maybe through the Spreaker app. But Pandora is really now number one. It's now the number one way people listen to us. At one point, Spotify was way up there, but it's moved down, and Pandora is just blowing the doors off all the other apps, and I don't really know why. So here's the thing. If you're listening to us via Pandora, please let me know. You can email me, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. How did you find us on Pandora? Like, what were you looking for? Do you use Pandora? Like, is Pandora now like your go-to podcast app? I was telling some friends that, right now people listen to us. The number one way people listen to us was on Pandora, and someone basically like, wait, what are you talking about? Who uses Pandora as a podcast app? I'm like, I guess it's more common than I would have imagined. So it's when I look at the statistics every day, I'm always trying to figure out like what is going on. How do I capitalize on this? What can I do with this? What can I do with this information? So to all the people listening on Pandora, thank you so very much. I will tell you this, and here's why I'm trying to delay. I have Pandora open right now, and I have the Theology Central podcast open, and I keep opening it up because I'm trying to see how long it takes for an episode to show up. I just finished a live broadcast maybe 10 minutes ago, and that episode has not shown up. So just so that you know, whenever you open up your Pandora app and you don't see a podcast, Pandora appears to be somewhat behind in how quickly new episodes are loaded, or how quickly they show up. We'll keep checking it throughout this episode and see how long it actually takes. I'm always curious. Procast, I did a podcast episode about that podcast app. They are super fast. I mean, it's staggering how quick they are. Literally, I get done with a podcast, and before I can reach over and grab my phone and look at it, the episode's already there. It's almost instantaneous. So Procast has done a very good job in being quick. Pocket Cast is also very quick. The Edify Christian Podcast app, they're way slow. Sometimes it takes up to 4 to 5 hours for episodes to show up. They're way behind. All right, I'm doing a refresh here. So, this one's a little behind, but we'll see. We'll keep checking it. So I just kind of give you some behind the scenes, telling you what's going on. So are you ready, though? We have a lot to do. We have a lot to do today. Psalm 37. This is part 11 and our Bible study exercise on Psalm 37. Now, if you are new, it's kind of weird that you tuned in part 11, but just in case that you are, if you tuned in for the first time, you're in part 11, so you need to go back and listen to 10 previous episodes. But let me just try to explain what we do here with the Bible study exercise. Here's the goal. I try to take you through a guided Bible study. The goal is to move you from a passive listener to an active participant. I don't want you just sitting there listening to me do the teaching. I try to do some teaching, and then I try to hand it over to you, and I give you assignments, and then I really want you to participate by you do the assignment, then you email it to me at newsif@yahoo.com. I look at what you did, and in some cases I take what you've done, I bring it right here to the microphone, and we add it, and I'm like, okay, someone did that. I don't give your name or anything. Someone did it this way. What do we think about that? And then it's supposed to just really, hopefully, motivate more Bible study, getting people actually into the text, not just listening to someone do the teaching for you, but you are an active participant in the entire process. So that's what we try to do. Are we always successful? No. Is it always perfect? No. Sometimes it's very imperfect because sometimes I have to teach this I have to teach it in a way like I don't know the answer because I'm trying to get you to figure out the answer. And so I try to teach it in a way like, well, it could be this, could be that. And I may already think that I already know what I think the answer is. But sometimes I try to leave that out to try to motivate you, I'm doing everything. It's like pulling teeth. I'm trying to get you involved. It's what I'm trying to do. So are you ready? Okay, so I'm going to do one more. We're going to jump into Psalm 37 here. I'm going to check one more time. All right. The last episode still hasn't showed up on Pandora. We'll see if it's there by the time we conclude this episode. So are you ready? Psalm 37. All right, we got a lot to do. I'm going to try to put this together. I think I've been sitting here looking at Psalm 37 now, well, not just right now, but over the last few days, and I just keep looking. I'm like, what do we do next? Well, how do we move this study any further? And I'm like, I don't really know what to do with this because it seems like in some ways it's repetitive. But when the scriptures are repetitive, it's repetitive obviously for a point. I mean, obviously we believe scripture is inspired by God. So if it's repeating a principle or repeating an idea, then we've got to really spend some time thinking. I'm saying that's me. I know you're probably trying. What's that sound? That's me. Just I've got the Bible open and I'm just rubbing the pages. Okay, so I don't know. I'm just sitting there, my hands going in a circle on the pages, and I'm all of a sudden realize the microphone's probably like, what is that sound? I apologize. So, but I've been sitting here looking at it, going, okay. So what do? I think I've got a suggestion. I think I've got an idea, and I'm going to be very curious to see if you agree or disagree. Are you ready? Okay, Psalm 37. First thing we need to realize, Psalm 37, from a human perspective, and we believe this is obviously inspired by God, but the human author of Psalm 37, most commentaries, many Bibles will tell you that it's David. Other commentaries will tell you we cannot be dogmatic. Whoever the psalmist may be, when they wrote Psalm 37, we do know this about them. Psalm 37, verse 25, I have been young, and now I am old. That whoever wrote Psalm 37 is someone who is old, physically old, and I think also not only physically old, they're old spiritually. I think this is someone who's been walking with God for some period of time. They're older, and now that they are going to give us, in a sense, the wisdom of age and the wisdom of walking with God for many years. And they're really trying to help us understand something. And basically, you can think of it this way. Psalm 37 is there to help you figure out how to navigate and make it through the difficulties of life. That as we try to walk through this life, we need to understand two very important concepts. Number one, we need to understand the future of the ungodly, and we need to know the future of the godly. That if we're going to make it through this Christian life, if we're going to make it through this life, and we're going to hopefully advance spiritually, we're going to be spiritually successful, spiritually victorious. If we're going to be able to do this, we've got to know two things: the future of the ungodly and the future of the godly. Now, let me explain how this works. Psalm 37, verse 1, fret not thyself because of evildoers. Fret not thyself because of evildoers. Now, a lot of this, we're going to repeat some of what we've already looked at, but it will all make sense here in a minute, okay? Now, this idea of fret not, remember, do not become angry, not burning with rage. You're not burning up. You're not mad, because you're going to live in a world, there's going to be evildoers, and you're going to find yourself at times getting very upset about it. Neither be thou envious against them. Don't allow yourself to become burning with rage and jealousy because of evil people. And then look at what happens in verse 2. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. So what do you need to know? If you're going to make it through this life, you need to know the future of the ungodly. Keep that in mind. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shall thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Now, I'm not going to review everything. We've talked about all of them. We've worked through all of these verses. Okay. And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Now, this sounds very repetitive, like we're back to verse 1. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil, for evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. Now, verse 9 really, once again, brings these two concepts together. We've already seen now, repeated a number of times. Know what's going to happen to the ungodly. They're going to be cut off. They're going to be destroyed. They're going to be brought down. Do not forget that whatever you see in this world, no matter how ungodly it is, no matter how successful, no matter how happy, no matter how rich, no matter how healthy the ungodly are, don't become angry, don't become jealous, because they're going to be cut down. Know the future of the ungodly, but at the same time, you need to know the future of the godly. And we get a hint of it right here. For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. Now, we talked about the inherit the earth part. We've looked at all of that. So that brings us down to verse 12. Now, so before we move forward, let me review. If you're going to make it through this Christian life, you need to hear the wisdom of someone who is older, someone who's been walking with God a long time. And here are two things you can never forget. Two things you must know. You must know the future of the ungodly. They're going to be brought down. They're going to be cut off. They're going to be basically like grass that is just cut down. They're going to wither. There's going to be destroyed. There's going to be destruction. There's going to be judgment. That should greatly help you navigate this world in which you live. Number two, you need to remember the future of the godly. The future of the ungodly is horrible and destruction and not good, but the future of the godly will be to inherit the earth. You need to remember the two perspectives if you're going to be able to move forward. But I believe now the following verses, and I don't know how far we'll get, I think this offers a third perspective you must have in being able to navigate this life. You need to know two things about the future, but you must be reminded constantly of the reality of the present. You must know the future of the ungodly. You must know the future of the godly. But you also must understand the reality of the present. Because I think sometimes we are naive, and I think sometimes we're given this idea that if I become a Christian, that the present is going to look like that future present. It's going to look like I'm inheriting the earth, and that there's no more pain, there's no more suffering, and no more death, and all tears are gone. But that is the future. Sometimes Christianity, we preach it like if you become a Christian, we almost act like it's going to be heaven on earth, but that's not a reality. And I think that can cause us to stumble and fall in our Christian walk. We need to know two things about the future of the ungodly and the future of the godly. But we need to know something. We need to know the reality of the present. And I think that these verses have tried to establish that, but I think now it's really emphasized. Look at verse 12. All right, Psalm 37, verse 12. The wicked plotteth against the just and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. The reality of the present situation is that the ungodly opposes the godly. The unspiritual opposes that which is spiritual. The fleshly opposes that which is spiritual. The wicked plotteth against the just and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. There is you need to realize you live in the present reality is that everything around you is in opposition to your spiritual growth. The world around you is filled with the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. It opposes. It's not there to support your Christian life. It's not there to support you, encourage you. Everything in the world around you is in opposition to it, sometimes in a direct confrontational way, and sometimes in a very non-confrontational way. It's just there to provide everything that goes against what God calls. It's there to say, look at this. Isn't this interesting? Isn't this entertaining? And isn't this desirable? And all of that will pull you off the road that you're supposed to walk. It's there to say, hey, look at us. Here, buy us. Here, participate, indulge, satisfy yourself. And it's all yelling and screaming at you. The world is in opposition to you, and we see it right here. The wicked plotteth against the just and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. Verse 13, the Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming. Now there's the reminder of the future of the ungodly, the future of the godly. All right, the next verse, verse 14, the wicked, now here we go. We're going to see this again. The wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be of upright conversation. The reality of the present is you live in a world that is opposed to everything about your spiritual life. It doesn't like it. It doesn't want it to succeed. It's not there to encourage it. It's there to discourage, to destroy, to distract, to detour. It's there to cause every problem it can. And if you don't understand that, your spiritual life will be in jeopardy. You've got to remember the future of the ungodly, the future of the godly, but you've got to realize and acknowledge the reality of the present. I mean, just look at that again. The wicked, they've drawn out their sword. That's opposition. They've bent their bow. That's opposition. To cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be of upright conversation. The sword shall enter into their own heart, and their bowels shall be broken. Now, there's the future of the ungodly. They're going to be judged. But in the meantime, they've got their weapons, and they want to slay you. They want to destroy you. They want to destroy your Christian life. They want to bring it down. Verse 16, a little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord shall uphold the righteous. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. All right. So then it continues on here, but I don't want to continue on. I mean, this chapter is so long. I just want to bring, I guess what I want to do in this Bible study exercise is just focus on this. Here's what I want to do, right? I'm going to start in Psalm 37, verse 1, and I'm going to go all the way down to verse 15. And I'm going to pull out every phrase that speaks of the reality of the world in which you currently live. Because you need to know the future of the ungodly, you need to know the future of the godly, but you need to be very painfully aware of the reality of the present. And let's look at this. Fret not thyself because of evildoers. Stop right there. You live in a world filled with evildoers. Neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. You live in a world filled with workers of iniquity. That's the way it is, and that's not going to change until Christ comes back. You just got to deal with that. That's the reality in which you live. See here, verse 7. We'll jump down to verse 7. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in his way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. You live in a world where wicked men are going to prosper. You're going to live in a world where wicked men come up with wicked schemes, and their wicked schemes are going to be successful. Where you may find the ungodly being prosperous and successful, and you may find the godly being not prosperous and not successful. All right. See a verse. Let's see. No, we've already looked at that one. See here. And then verse 12, the wicked plotteth against the just and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. You live in a world where the wicked are going to plot against you, and they're going to gnash upon you with their teeth. They're going to, now you could see this maybe from a literal sense. They're going to run upon you and start gnawing on you with their teeth, and we don't think that's literally going to happen. We could talk about what happened with Stephen in the book of Acts, but the idea here is I think we could look at this phrase, but I think we can look at it at least from this perspective. I think it's at least a fair application. They're going to talk about you. They're going to gossip. They're going to slander. And things are at times they're going to be believed, and you're not going to be believed. And then verse 14, the wicked have drawn out their sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and to slay. So the wicked have their weapons, and they're going to use them against you. They have their weapons, they're proficient in their use, and they're going to use them to bring you down. Verse 15, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. We'll stop right there. Okay. Now, the Lord, in the midst of telling you what's going on with the wicked, he also explains that ultimately they're going to be destroyed. Ultimately, they're going to be taken care of, which we've already dealt with that concept. So here's what I want you to do. Here's kind of just a little assignment. I want you to take a few minutes, and this should not take you long. I want you to think of anywhere and everywhere in the Bible, that speaks of the present reality of the world in which you live, right? I want you to find scripture that speaks about the current situation of the world, because I think sometimes we sometimes feel like when we become a Christian that we're not going to be touched by any of this, but that's not true. You are a Christian. You are in the world. You are in this wicked world where people are trying to destroy you and bring you down, and they're opposed to everything you're trying to do in your spiritual life. We have to recognize that reality. Look, if you're going to be successful in your Christian life, you've got to know the future of the ungodly and the future of the godly, but you've got to have a painful awareness of the reality of the world in which you live. You cannot pretend that you're in some Disney version of life. You're not. You're in a very real, gritty world, and you need to know what is around you and understand that. So I want you to find scripture that kind of describes the world in which you live. Now, Psalm 37 gives you some pretty good ideas, but I want you to think of what does the Bible say about the world in which you live? All that is in the world is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. You are surrounded by a world system that operates with and putting forth those three ideas: the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. That's the world in which you live. You need to acknowledge that. All right, what else? Is the world described as being in darkness? Then you live in a dark world, a world where there is confusion and darkness, and you can stumble and fall unless you've got light. And what is that light? Well, that's Scripture. It's a light and a lamp, right? So the world is described as darkness. I'm just thinking of other things about the world, other scriptures that kind of describe the condition of the world as it is right now, and the world in which you live. Who's the prince of this world? Who is in one sense, the God of this world? I mean, just think of scriptures. I'm just trying to hint at some scriptures. You don't need to find 30. You don't need to find 20. About 5 very just solid scriptures that really describe the world in which you live. You need to know this and be reminded every day. You're waking up, you're going into this world, and guess what you're going to find in this world? You may get frustrated by it, but this world is in opposition to everything you believe. It's not there to support it. It's not there to encourage it. It's not there to help it. Now, sometimes Christians get mad at the world for not supporting what we want, and I think sometimes we want to force them to be on our side, but you can't force the unbeliever to support things of the believer because, well, they're not a believer. So we need to know the future of the ungodly. We need to know the future of the godly, and we need to have a painful awareness. We need to have a very accurate awareness of the world in which we currently live. Or I can state it this way. We need to know the future of the ungodly. We need to know the future of the godly, and we need to know the reality of the present. We must know the reality of the present. Psalm 37 describes that reality. All right. Then starting in verse 16, well, then we can see what we can do there. All right. Yeah. I think there's kind of a change in focus for the rest of this chapter. I mean, there's 40 verses, but I think stopping in verse 15, because I think starting in verse 16, it kind of moves. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a change. I think there's a change there. So I want you to consider that 5 verses that describe the world in which you currently live. Please send them to me. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. I'm really interested to see what verses people find. And I want you to then really look at them and go, I need to be reminded, this is the world in which I live. Now, if you live in a world and you see the reality of that world, it should probably motivate you to go, man, I need to make sure I've got God's word because I need light. I need spiritual armor. I need to take this seriously. Think of it this way. Maybe this analogy will work. Maybe it will not. Let's say you are in the military, right? And they've given you a map, and they said you've got a march from this location to this location. Here's the distance. Here's your map. Here's the direction you need to go. And you start walking, and all of a sudden you realize, okay, we crossed this open area, and we're going to get really close to our destination. All we got to do is go walk straight across this, and we're going to get there. Now, if your understanding of your present situation is this just an empty field, there's nothing there to worry about, there's no enemy around here, we can just walk right across this and we're going to be right there in no time. You're going to just you're not going to have your gun in your hand. You may even not even put it over your shoulder. Maybe the barrel's pointing down. Maybe it's over your back. You're not even worried about it. You're not concerned. It's just like it's an empty field. Nothing to be concerned about, right? But if all of a sudden you start walking across that field with your troops and someone steps on a landmine, casualty number 1 goes down. Right? Casualty number 1. Maybe it kills the person instantaneously, or maybe it wounds them horribly, and then now you've got to try to figure out what to stop the bleeding and what you're going to do. And now you got to immediately you realize everything just changed. I'm not going to be able to walk across this field. We're going to have to either detour. We're going to have to figure out what we're going to do. Your whole new way of navigating, now everything's changed. Everything has changed. You're going to approach it differently. Sometimes I think Christians go walking through the world like it's, an open field. The enemy is gone. There's no mines to step on. And then next thing you know, we step on a landmine. We lose a leg. We injure ourselves. Or the next thing you know, we're not paying any attention. And the enemy, flanks us and we start getting, taken down and we don't even realize what happened. Because sometimes we know about the future of the ungodly. We know about the future of the godly. But sometimes I don't think we have an accurate understanding of the present world in which we live. We have to see that we are basically behind enemy lines. We are in the area, the territory of the enemy. The land is filled with landmines. There are an enemy roaming about seeking to destroy us, and we have to have that mindset. And I don't think that mindset is as accurate enough in the minds of many Christians. We need to see the reality. So I want you to find the scriptures that describe the reality of the world in which we live. I want you to find good ones, all right? The key is not how quickly you can finish the assignment. The goal is to find those verses that you're like, wow, I need that reminder every day, right? So 5 scriptures. That's what I'm looking for. I can't wait. I really can't wait to see what you come up with because I think that's really key in this part of the psalm. All right, now I know we could have just moved on quicker, but I think that you can't. If you overlook that, you're missing a major theme there in Psalm 37. Clearly, we see the theme of knowing the future of the ungodly. Clearly, we see the theme of knowing the future of the godly. But I think clearly we need to see the reminder there that we need to understand the reality of the present. And the reality of the present, it's not good. All right. Email me, newsif@yahoo.com, newsif@yahoo.com. Oh, yeah, we were going to check Pandora. Give me one second here. Let's look. Pandora. Nope, the new one is still not shown up. So, yeah, that's... oh, no, here it goes. It just showed up. So, what do church members want and need? A look at church members and how things work in the church. All right, there on Pandora, and I hit play, and here we go.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective.
So it's not. I mean, it's about a 35-minute, 40-minute delay for showing up. So if you check your Pandora feed. And you don't see anything, you could be about 30 to 35 minutes behind, if you even care. So just so that you know that. That was the first time I've ever tested Pandora to see how long it takes. It'll be interesting to see how long this one takes. So I'll be checking Pandora for that as well. All right, there you have it. Psalm 37, I think, is that part 11. I hope this was beneficial. I hope it was. And I feel like we should have went further, but I think going slow here is important because I think we really need to get this concept down. All right, I'll stop right there. Everyone have a great day. God bless.